Outside of your own experience, and I'll share too. Like, I don't know, what do you hear men saying when they're in similar situations as we are, dads, husbands, working? Like, do you hear much about like their struggle to be in consistent community? Do you hear them even talking about like, hey, I'm even aware that I want it, or I'm not even aware because I'm just like in go mode?
Yeah, I think it depends. Everybody, their season of life, even personality wise too.
Yeah,
I think there's people who recognize that they want it,
yeah,
and just don't see a tangible way of having it.
yeah,
I think there's some people who see Sunday as enough.
yeah,
Like, yeah, all right, I got to talk to you kind of, and now I'm
yeah,
going to leave. And I think there's some people who are struggling between, I feel like sometimes it's a decision of either this or that. So it's
yeah,
either my family or it's community
yeah,
or hanging out with guys.
yeah.
And not a reality of like it can be all of it
Sure.
together.
Yeah, yeah. Do you hear any people like talk about like feeling guilty for like going and hang out with people and like their wife staying at home? I hear that. I don't know if you.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if you feel that even, but like
I'd say season of
it's
life.
okay for like, hey, deuces, Aubrey.
Yeah. I don't feel bad, and I think
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
it is because I know, and we've talked about, it's needed.
yeah, for sure.
I actually will be, if I'm honest with myself, and I think connecting in healthy ways,
Yeah,
it makes me a healthier person for my
100%.
family.
Yeah,
So it's not me trying to escape my family, but it's actually,
yeah,
I'd say, growing and developing myself so that when I come back, I can be better with my family.
yeah. I can even tell with Jenny. Sometimes I'm like, okay, someone invited me to something. Man, I feel bad. She hasn't gone hang out with any of her friends recently, or whatever it may be, and I want to go, but I also don't want to like make her just be here by herself. And I think in some ways I use that as an excuse because sometimes I don't want to put out the effort to actually go. Like it's easy to be like, oh man, like I just feel bad. Uh, when really I know going takes effort, will make me feel a bit uncomfortable, and so it's easy just for the out of like saying I feel guilty. Um, but I think there is sometimes too then this aspect of like, oh, I some people I think really do feel guilty. Um, of leaving and will my wife be alone when I come back? Will she be upset with me? Will she like be bitter that I got hung out with friends and she didn't? And I think while that there's like some validity there, I think there's probably a lot to like push into in terms of what outside of that moment, what's actually conversation with your wife look like in terms of friendship, right?
Yeah.
If there's only like, hey, the only time we would talk about our friendship or how lonely we are is when but one of us is legally going out to hang out with somebody and the other person feels bad and there's just kind of like this defensiveness compared to um, how do we actually have conversations outside of these moments of like how do we actually like achieve what you need, right? And like there's more like, hey, I actually feel seen, I actually feel appreciated. And so when you go out to hang out with people, I don't feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick because I know we've talked about how I can get that too, right?
Yeah. And again, I think something that like as you're talking that I think about is a reality of self-awareness.
Yeah,
So many people come in different places. Like, I mean, being a licensed therapist,
yeah.
there's a degree to where you learn the human mind. And so
I'm
it's,
reading it right now.
but I think in that self-awareness and where are, and even that, does that word, you're like, I don't know what that even really means.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's your starting point.
yeah,
And some people are very self-aware, mind, soul, body, in terms of, I know what my body's even telling me as I'm thinking these things or having this conversation with my wife.
yeah,
And so I think some of it comes to whether it's the frustration, like, am I worried that she's going to be frustrated with me?
yeah,
It's not about you going out.
yeah,
It's about something that she's also missing out on.
yeah.
It's something that she's
No, that's good.
desiring that she's not getting.
100%. She's not just upset with you. She's upset that she's like
Yeah.
lacking that in her own life.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think, can you actually press deeper into that more
yeah.
than the frustration that you went out with your friends?
100%.
Again?
100%.
And being able to communicate, I'm not just going out with my friends.
Yeah, yeah.
This is life giving.
100%.
Hopefully, it's a life giving situation. I mean, if you're just going out to, I don't know, get plastered or something like that,
Yeah,
it's not very life
yeah,
giving.
yeah. Which we can talk about too here in a minute about just like there are times when guys hang out and then you leave and you're like, cool. Like I didn't.
I should have just stayed home.
Yeah, I
ate
didn't.
some pizza rolls, watched a movie with my wife.
Yeah. Been the same thing. Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I'm curious. I'm not saying this is like all the time, but just being a guy, I'm aware of my own stuff of like, I think there are times like, man, if I do something that I know may make my wife upset, there's a possibility that that might push sex down the road a few more days because if my wife's upset, we're not going to have sex. And it's like, not almost like, not that that's our explicitly, but in some ways, part of it is like, all right, if I can keep my wife happy, maybe we can,
Yeah. Yeah,
which
no
is a
doubt.
very like sad and twisted way, very like selfish way of thinking, but I think it's very real in terms of when you're kind of like aware of how something may impact her mood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think if that's a reality, which I think is for quite a few people, those are rhythms that you've set, even subconsciously,
For sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's a rhythm that you've created. Okay, I know if I essentially do this thing and I get this type of response subconsciously,
Yeah.
don't do that
Yeah.
because it's
Yep.
going to jeopardize what I want
Yeah.
or what I need.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point, and I think that's why it won't be easy, but communicating is huge, right?
Yeah.
Communicating, not just I want to go out,
Yeah.
but before you even ask to go out,
Yeah.
are you both communicating your desires and needs in relationship?
Yeah.
Right? Like obviously, well, hopefully in your marriage, you want to be with one another, you want to hang out with each other, you love and care for one another.
Yeah.
But we're not built to just be satisfied in this marriage.
Yeah.
I think we are built and created to thrive in community.
Yeah.
And so being able to communicate those things and then communicating with your spouse, hey, are you not just thinking about yourself, but her as well? If you're a better human for connecting with people, don't you want her to be a better human connecting with others? So do you also make space for her saying, hey, what does it look like for you to also get out? Like, because I think you need this.
Yeah.
And again, just depending on where they're at, whether the wife's are like, well, I don't have any friends. Okay.
Yeah.
Then what's our first step of getting some friends, if you will, and seeing that happen? And it's might be awkward or uncomfortable the first time you go out, but just like anything, once you do it after a while, you recognize just the benefit. But are you being proactive, not just in your life, but I'd say in the life of your wife as well?
Yeah. No, man, that's good. Hang on. Hello, Jenny. Hey, Jenny. Hey, you there?
What's up, babe?
You've been smoking?
What? Trying to fit.
Well, your voice gotten much. You rope? Is this a new thing? What's going on?
What do you wear?
Hey, Sugar Lips. It's me.
How you wear those pants I like?
I just want to let you know, Alexi's calling me. I'm going to go over to his house tonight.
I thought we were going to hang out tonight. Also, side note, we just went back to the 90s because we don't have our iPhones. We have our...
Yeah, you can call me on my cell phone. Brah, brah, brah. Anyways, I know. Sorry, late. No, I meant to tell you earlier, and I forgot. He actually asked me like last week, but I'm...
Yeah, but we haven't hung out, and it's been terrible.
Yeah,
the
but
kids
we're
are
just
going crazy.
We're just gonna like watch TV. We always... It's like, I thought I just could go.
No, I've literally been... I'm tired.
Okay. All right. I'll see you later.
Fine.
Hey,
bye.
ring.
Hello?
Hey, hey, babe. You still been smoking, but I have a question for you. I'm so sorry. I meant to tell you this the other week. Lexi's had asked me if I could come over tonight. I know you haven't seen your friends in a while either. Anyway, if we have a plan going over tonight, we can look at our calendar and see if like any way that you can get together with some folks in the next week or two. I don't want to just feel like I'm the only one getting out here, but I do want to like start this conversation about hanging out with folks.
This is kind of frustrating.
I know.
But
I
I'm
know.
here and hopefully...
I take ownership of waiting until the last minute.
hopefully understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And maybe we can work around that and figure that out. I still want to spend some time with you.
So maybe like when I get home, you can be wearing that robe. Don't end that way.
Hello? Hello?
Jenny?
Are you still there?
Babe?
All right, so you're putting the robe on, right?
Yeah. she must, that's why she hung up. She must be putting the robe on. That's gotta be it. Yeah. And obviously it's not that smooth, but I think like, just like there are ways of like, man, like, am I just gonna, how do I be mindful and thoughtful essentially, right? Is what we're,
And I think to that point, like, can you be also thoughtful before you leave.
Yeah.
Like, can you make a plan to say, how do I set up my wife?
Yeah,
Again,
100%.
with whether it's little kids, can I, and again, I personally don't do, what I'm about to say to get something when I get back.
Sure.
It's like, man, how do I slow down and be like, depending on does my wife work or is she with the kids? What that looks like.
Yeah.
Man, how do I make sure the dishes are cleaned up, that tables like are, things can be set up as
Yeah.
much as possible, that even setting up one of her favorite snacks.
Yeah, man.
Like
No, I
before
think that's
leave,
very-
hey,
yeah.
I'm gonna, I'll open a bottle of wine for you and
Yeah.
leave out some snacks and,
Yeah.
turn on the TV for you on your favorite
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. And I really think for guys truly doing all that, as you're saying, and like, man, Logan, I am doing this. I really want to serve my wife. Like, and even if there's a back part of me, it's like, oh, maybe she'll like, no, Logan. It's okay. Like, you don't, like, this is not to serve me at all. This is truly just, and I think it's okay. I think there's sometimes a fear, like all these things pop up in my mind. They're going to pop up sometimes. That's okay. It's more of like, how are we going to address them?
Yeah.
The willingness to like push it back and say, no, like, that's a thought that is there. And, that's not my intent. That's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I just want to love my wife.
And,
so,
and I think if it comes up, if it's been without realizing a habit of yours that you've done before,
yeah.
I don't think we should ever be surprised if our wife calls us out on it.
Yeah.
But do we press into it? To
For
your
sure.
point, I think
Yeah.
being able to say like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and this might be an
Yeah.
uncomfortable, hard conversation.
Yeah.